When you're out on a date, you might think you're focusing on how great the conversation is, how much you have in common, or the chemistry between you two. But there's another layer, something that you're not always consciously aware of. It's the unspoken signals. The body language that reveals so much more than words ever could. Those subtle cues that can tell you whether things are going well or if you might be walking into a dating disaster. As you sit across from your date, take a moment to observe how they're sitting. Do they seem open to you, or are they closed off? Maybe their arms are crossed tightly in front of them, or their legs are angled away from you. These body language signals aren't just random. They're actually indicating how comfortable or uncomfortable they are, and how invested they are in the interaction. Crossed arms, for example, could be a sign of defensiveness or discomfort. It's like an invisible wall they've built around themselves. Pay attention to how they're facing you. Are they turning their body toward you, signaling interest and engagement, or are they turned away, creating distance without saying a word? When someone turns their body away from you, it's not just about physical space. It's a sign that they're mentally distancing themselves, that they're not fully invested in the moment. In dating, body language like this can be a huge red flag. It's like they're already subconsciously checking out. But it's not just about how they position their body. It's also about their facial expressions. You might think they're smiling, but if you look closely, you'll notice if it's a genuine smile or just one of politeness. A real smile involves more than just the mouth. It reaches the eyes, making them sparkle with warmth. If their eyes stay flat, or if they're avoiding eye contact altogether, this is an indication that something is off. Maybe they're not as interested as they're trying to appear. Another major red flag is nervous body language. People who are anxious may fidget, play with their hair, tap their fingers, or shift in their seat. While some of this is normal, especially in the beginning stages of dating, excessive fidgeting can signal discomfort or even a lack of trust. If your date is constantly looking around the room or checking their phone, this could be a sign that they're not fully present. They're distracted and not truly interested in getting to know you. You might also notice that their touch is either too much or too little. It's like Goldilocks. It should be just right. If they're constantly invading your personal space or being overly touchy, it could be a sign of possessiveness or an inability to respect boundaries. On the other hand, if they seem to avoid any form of physical contact, even a friendly touch on the arm, it might suggest they're not comfortable with intimacy or they're simply not interested. Either extreme is a red flag, showing that they might not be emotionally available in the way you need. Now, let's talk about their posture. When someone is interested and engaged in a conversation, they tend to lean in slightly, mirroring your movements or words. They're showing that they are not just hearing you, but that they are connecting with you on a deeper level. However, if they're slouching, leaning back, or avoiding any sort of eye contact, it could mean they're disengaged, distracted, or just not as interested as you thought. In dating, posture can speak volumes, and sometimes it's the first clue that things aren't going as well as they seem. Sometimes the red flags are much more subtle. You might notice a shift in tone when they talk about certain topics. Are they avoiding some subjects completely, or do they seem overly defensive? How they react to your opinions and personal experiences can tell you a lot about how they really feel. A lack of interest in hearing about your day or experiences might show that they're not emotionally available, or they're too focused on themselves to really listen to you. Now, let's talk about silence. The silence in a conversation can be very telling. Does it feel awkward or comfortable? If your date struggles to keep the conversation going, or if there's an uncomfortable pause every few minutes, it might mean that they're not fully invested in getting to know you. On the other hand, if they're talking endlessly about themselves without asking anything about you, it could be a sign of selfishness or a lack of interest in who you really are. If your date avoids talking about their past or is quick to change the subject whenever certain topics come up, that's another red flag. Everyone has a past, but how someone talks about it can give you insight into their emotional maturity and their readiness for a real connection. Someone who's hiding information or getting defensive when talking about their life could be avoiding important details, where they might not be ready to open up to you when things seem too perfect, or when they're saying all the right things but their body language says otherwise. That's a huge red flag. Sometimes people are so focused on impressing you that they ignore their body's natural response. It's like their words are telling one story, but their body is telling another. When this happens, it's important to pay close attention to the signals they're sending, and to trust your instincts. Even though they might be saying exactly what you want to hear, their body might be giving away the truth. It's important to remember that communication is a two-way street. Body language isn't just something you should watch out for in your date. It's something you should be aware of in yourself too. You see, When you're aware of how your body is reacting and what you're conveying, you're in a better position to spot the red flags and to know what your own boundaries are. And remember, trust your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Don't ignore the signals your body and your date's body language are giving you. They're telling you more than words ever could. So as you sit back and reflect on your experiences, consider how much you've learned about reading body language. How many times has your gut been right, even when the words didn't match? Trust that feeling and use it to guide you through future dates, because the more you pay attention to the silent cues, the better you'll be at spotting a dating disaster before it even happens. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, because you will learn tons of information in the next video. See you soon.